Okay, okay, by the looks of things, we are live.
Hey everyone.
Yes. We apologize for being gone so long, for the tech difficulties. Let's see, did I receive it?
Did I see what?
I'm trying to see if I received any invites. Did I? No, of course, we are. Oh, there we are.
Here you go. I don't know why your invite didn't work.
Eh, Rocket League must be Rocket League, you know that. Anyway, the important thing is, we are here now. There is no music in this game because YouTube will, of course, be YouTube and automatically block me for music that is inside Rocket League. So here we are.
And I have an interesting story to tell, brought to you by the NoClip documentary that was recently done on Arcane Games. It's a really interesting documentary. I'd recommend talking about it and watching it in the whole. It not only covers what I'm about to talk, but also talks about their history, other games they published, and other canceled projects that didn't come to light, like a game called The Crossing, and the one that actually involved Steven Spielberg called LMNO,
Hmm.
which is interesting. Um,
Yeah.
uh, for those who don't know, at one point, Arcane Games was working with Spielberg to make a game which the basic premise seems to be that you were working with this alien, the female alien, to escape some FBI guys, and it seemed the gameplay seemed to be a mixture of parkour and first-person combat,
Hmm.
which was before Mirror's Edge and before Assassin's Creed popularized parkour mechanics and whatnot, which sounded pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
I can't remember why it got canceled, but I know it didn't get super far, which is why it only uses the codename LMNO.
Hmm.
Sounded promising and really interesting, but they go more into that in documentary. What's really interesting is what they cover, which they covered a lot of, is a canceled Half-Life game they were um uh, working on. Now, before I go into what they were working on, I just want to explain this thing. If you remember, you remember Opposing Force and Half-Life Blue Shift, right?
Yeah.
Well, around the time when Valve was experimenting with episodic games, they contacted a number of third-party studios to also make their own Half-Life games to sort of make their own side stories and play around with the engine and other stuff. And what I understand, they contacted a bunch of different studios. Like I know they contacted EA Montreal. I think Gearbox Software was in the work, was in the talks of doing one, and Arcane was also another one of them, and they got apparently pretty far into it. So first off, interesting bit of news was you would have been playing as Adrian Shepard from Opposing Force.
Okay.
Um, uh, and apparently, I think it would take place. I might have misunderstood the timeline, but I think it either took place during the week while Gordon was in a slow transport in Half-Life 2, or it took place between Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1. I'm not
Hmm.
exactly sure on the timeline, it's one of those two areas. Sorry,
Okay.
excuse me. And apparently, it was to all take place in Ravenholm, and you were with Father Grigori the entire time.
Hmm.
Apparently, Grigori throughout the expansion would get more and more mutated due to the fact that Grigori apparently is immune to a lot of the head crabs due to the fact that he was injecting himself with some of their DNA or slime or something weird. But that had a
Hmm.
negative effect of throughout the DLC or throughout the game, he was getting more and more mutated, and eventually he would just become so mutated that he would become this weird monster thing that you'd be forced to kill.
Okay.
There's apparently a lot of interesting ideas they had, like with like a what do you call it? Some sort of like electricity gun that seemed to be used for puzzles as well as just killing zombies in general.
Hmm.
Interestingly, there was also some zombies that weren't head crab zombies. Apparently, there was a story reason for why that happens, but I don't know what it is yet. But apparently they had a really lot of fun, unique ideas. They also had monkey zombies, funnily enough. Um, uh,
I can
and
believe that. Yeah.
want to hear the saddest part?
What?
They were almost done with it. They had like 10 chapters done, which to get put in perspective is like a little bit longer than Half-Life 2 Episode 2. They needed like a little less than a year to like polish it up, add in some effects and whatnot. Um, uh, Before Valve pulled the plug. And now you may be wondering if they were so far in development and it was so good. And like, before I go forward, I'm sorry, I'm having some OCD flare-ups, but it's a struggle to stay focused and tell a story while I'm having OCD, but I'm gonna try.
Mm-hmm.
First off, just to put in perspective how much this meant to the team, them at Arcane, they still have the files to the game to this day on their computers, and they let new employees play around with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they like to give a tap on the shoulder and say, hey, do you want to play an unreleased Half-Life game? Employees at Arcane are apparently allowed to play through this and whatnot.
Yeah.
Beta or alpha. But, it was, this isn't said in a no-clip documentary, but I found out elsewhere why they canceled it from Valve News Network. And apparently, what happened at Valve is that they got to the point where there were some people at the company who had been working on Half-Life for so long, and nothing but Half-Life, that they got sick of it. Well, just in general, they just kind of got bored of doing Half-Life, so they're just sort of like, after episode 2 shit, they're kind of done. As far as I understand, there was a skeleton crew that worked on episode 3 for a bit, but it never got very far. So, they canceled it down, which is fine, but it also doesn't explain why they canceled other people's projects. You know, the third-party studio projects. Apparently, I dug a little deeper, and apparently they were worried that if they had released other spin-off projects, that would have increased the desire and increased the demand for Episode 3 and other mainline projects, which they knew they weren't going to do. And they just said, you know, I just can't forget about it.
So basically, they were lazy. They didn't want to hire new people.
Basically, they didn't want to release this awesome-looking Half-Life spin-off because they were worried it would increase demand for a mainline Half-Life that they weren't going to do anytime soon. So, yeah, pretty much, like, since they didn't want to play with their toys, no one else got to play with their toys. Pretty much.
Mm.
And it's really sad because, like, the people at Arcane were really passionate and had a lot of fun making it. And one guy involved with the team literally said in the documentary that I've learned to get less sad over it. If that's not like an obvious indication or that fact it wasn't released is a disappointment for the team, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, now that you've told me that story, I think I see Dishonored in a new light.
By that.
No, I'm starting to think maybe that entire... this is probably just me talking to my butt. That entire game could be seen as an entire fuck you to Valve.
Why is that?
It's like, we put so much work into making this, and then you flat out stab us in the back. So now we're gonna get revenge on you, little bastard.
That I have doubts on and whatnot. That sounds a little too conspiracy serious. But you never, like, I think...
Dude, remember what podcast you're on.
Yeah.
No, I could see it. Like, all the people you kill in the first Dishonored are actually represent big executives at Valve. Why not?
It's really disappointing because it looks like they were really changing up the gameplay and like adding new weapons and other cool things. And I don't think it ever had an official name. I think internally it was just called Return to Ravenholm and whatnot. But I think what really pissed me off is realizing that it needed less than a year to finish up and would have been good to go. I think that kind of pissed me off the most, you know? What about you?
It's always awful when that happens.
Does it sound what I've told you of the Ravenholm? Does that sound like it could have been something really good?
Yeah. Think of the ideas people come up with.
Highly recommend checking out the documentary where they
Mhm.
talk about all this
Yeah.
in more detail and whatnot. But
Yeah.
like, the documentary as a whole is very interesting.
I'll be interested to know what new ideas they have now. I mean, because that's maybe what I want to focus on, less on events, more on ideas.
I
Is it-
kind of hope that one day the beta version of what they did make gets leaked or whatnot. Because it'd be cool to just see what they did make and to play around with it, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not gonna say maybe one day they'll finish it. Like, it's been like almost a decade. That's not happening. Valve has moved on. Arcane has moved on. They're not going back to finish it anytime soon. But it'd be cool if what was done would get leaked. You know?
Mhm.
'Cause,
And then the community would finish it.
yeah. Because, like I said, according to Arcane themselves, they still keep the files to this day and let new employees play
Yeah.
around with it. I mean, I don't need. I mean, I think that just the fact that they kept the files all this time is proof enough that the project meant a lot to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and other things are all talked about in No Clip documentary on Arcane Games. Definitely recommend checking it out. That's the thing with Valve is that it can be very frustrating at times.
Yeah. With that. Was there any other uh
Yeah, I'm sorry,
thing?
what did you say?
Is there any other things recently that you can think of?
I'm trying to think. Other than that, I can't really think of.
Well, the
much.
lockdown is starting to come down in the UK anyway.
Well, that's good. I think lockdown is also starting to get loosened up here in the States.
Mhm. Which was it could be a bit of a segue to what I asked you about in the last podcast, if you remember.
I don't remember. What was it?
Well, with me, it was me saying I'd rather take the danger of being free than be controlled. I asked you about it, and you said you'd never really thought of it that way before.
Well, I agree. I'd rather have danger than be free than no danger and be controlled. I didn't think of it in relation to the coronavirus. Because the virus is less about control and more so just about not letting the virus spread even more, and having the healthcare system overloaded.
Yeah, it's also being used to push in all of these big emergency powers that rarely, if ever, get overturned.
Maybe, but I have a feeling I'm pretty certain they will be overturned, and if not, then I'll eat my word. I scored.
It rarely ever happens.
You know, you do bring up good points in terms of the virus, where it could be used for control, and there could be people working behind the scenes. But I think this is one of the few rare cases where, like, I think staying indoors and whatnot is better than, like, going around doing willy-nilly stuff. But it's not really much of a discussion anymore since, as we just said, things are starting to line up.
Yeah, hopefully there won't be a second wave.
Hopefully.
Yet, hope is never a very good strategy for playing for the future. I learned that in getting over it.
What the heck? I was kicked for being idle? No, I wasn't. I wasn't idle at all.
Alright, I'll be out.
So weird. Why did it kick me? I wasn't being idle. Rocket League is weird sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, have you sucked at another game?
You didn't realize you were ready. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm here.
That was so weird. Hope that doesn't happen again.
I was gonna ask, do you see the video I put out today?
Yeah, I did. I really liked the ending. Thought it was pretty funny.
Okay, well, in that case, I guess that can be another part of it. You can think more about your reply to how much freedom or security there should be, and can also give a review of the video. And for the few people watching who have not seen it yet, why not? Come on, I put a lot of effort into those things. A lot.
I guess I'll start with the freedom of speech thing, and
Yeah. That spinning flashback thing I put in there is not just for humor.
I think in terms of freedom versus safety, I think it should be in reasonable bounds. Like, if it affects other people and beyond just you, in a way, then I think, like, there should be more consideration. But if it's just, like, you doing something to yourself or whatnot, then why not? You know, it's sort of like with drugs, where it's like, I'm not interested in taking drugs, but if someone wants to fuck themselves up and do it, then go ahead.
Do you think you bit more specific with your examples than that?
I guess, like, if you have well, like, maybe this is so too on the nose, but like, or too specific, but if you have a virus that can spread and can really hurt certain people, types of people, then you shouldn't be allowed to go near those types of people. But if like, you're just taking drugs or just doing something on your own, then I see no issue. Part of why I personally believe that, like, I think prostitution should be legal, because it's like, as long as it's two consenting adults, let them do whatever they want.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but you didn't know that about me. I think prostitution is...
No, that's what I'm surprised about. Is that we've really gone to prostitution next. We've really gone to new grounds on this show.
I mean, it's not a hill I'd, like, die over. Like, I'm not gonna protest in the streets over, like, prostitution should be legal, but I'm just sort of like, and I wouldn't support it, you know, or go out of my way.
Yeah, I can try to imagine how the media would present that protest. It's like considered one of the most sexist and horniest protests ever that prostitution should be legal.
It depends on who was protesting. If it was just men, maybe, but if it was women, then it might be seen as some feminist movement.
Yeah, true. Although if it's a feminist movement, I have to wonder if it would even be taken seriously. As in, oh god, they're bitching and protesting again.
I guess it depends on how it was presented and who was arguing it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And as for your video, I thought it was pretty good, pretty funny, really good editing, really good jokes. It's just overall
Okay.
really good.
Actually, hold that thought and revise. I just thought of a way that a protest for prostitution could work. Rather than just have men or women do it, just have gay men say that there should be a right to prostitute. Or no, even better. Men that want to transition to be trans, just have them do it. Because then if you're against them, you're against transgender people. You're against them empowering yourself. You're against them finding the money for their vital surgeries to be themselves. How could you be against that, you despicable bigot? That's why. I mean, does that make sense, or am I putting it on too thick?
I guess it's not impossible. I think there's some arguments that even SJW types would be like that's done too.
Yeah, but they're not exactly the sharpest tools in the shed.
Did see some people. Maybe you're right.
I mean, I always look at this when you think, well, with men's rights activists, I mean, what the hell have those guys done? Pretty much nothing. I mean, the LGBT, they've probably done more for the rights of straight men than men's rights activists have ever done. And they did it without even meaning to.
Why is that?
Because when LGBT pushes for something, that just happens to benefit straight guys, they do it with the cover of, if you're against this, then you're against the LGBT.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. It's not outside of men's rights activists. If you want to get something done, just have the LGBT support it, or pitch it in a way that they would support it, and it'll get done. So, by all rights, I fully support whatever they want to do.
At it.
Yeah.
Well, you never thought of it that way, but alternatively.
Yeah, I mean, don't fight fire with fire, fight it with water.
Yeah.
It's harder, but it's a lot more effective.
Really, I'd say fighting fire with water is much more effective than fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, but most people always fight fire with fire, because it's easy. Only problem is, when you do it that way, the person that has more fire than you always wins. And fighting with water is harder to do, because you've got to actually put some thought into it. Yeah, but, yeah. So, well, we're going to lose this round, so... Sorry, what were you saying in my video again?
Oh, I was saying, I thought it was really well edited and really funny.
Okay, well, what about the beginning?
It was certainly a very unique and unexpected way to open a Let's Play video. Certainly, I've seen similar-ish things done before, but like, you did it in a pretty unique way. With black and white thing and whatnot, and how dramatized you made it.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if you noticed, it was even the way the font was done, it was the same as Days of Our Lives.
Didn't realize that. No.
You know, if you've ever heard of that one, this overly dramatic soap opera. So that's what I was going for.
Well, that's a neat detail you added.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice that at first. I'll have to go back and see that.
Yeah. But the only thing I am ashamed of was that I had to resort to using the Wilhelm scream, because I couldn't find a better one.
Nothing's wrong with the Wilhelm scream. The scream is always funny.
Yeah, but I felt that kind of ruined the mood a little bit. It was like the stormtroopers falling. I'm probably a bit more shameful. I was inspired to do that by Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged.
What exactly you seen in particular inspired you?
I don't remember, it was one of the early episodes where, for whatever reason, they opened up with all these characters say, I think I'm pregnant and so-and-so's the father.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, and then, now, the epic conclusion. Wait, did any of that actually happen?
Wilhelm scream. Did Star Wars originate the Wilhelm scream, or?
I think it was around a little before that, but they really popularized it.
You can hear it. You can hear the Wilhelm scream in everything, or in a lot of places.
Well, yeah, it's free to use, and it's easily to put anywhere.
I think most of the times people nowadays mostly use it as a joke or like as a reference to something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as for the start, then I'll try and see if I can use that other places. I had too much inspiration. I had too much inspiration to get rid of that one.
Yeah, it's really funny when it's a serious like it's on it like never use it for a serious intent because like you're just gonna get people laughing and if you use it for a serious intent. Like I remember there was
Dude, it's a soap opera. It's not supposed to be serious.
I remember once a horror. I'm just saying, there was once a horror movie called Amusement that's supposed to be taken really seriously, and like during one of the scenes they used a Wilhelm scream to startle you, and like all I did was laugh at it because it's a fucking Wilhelm scream.
Amusement.
It's a pretty awful horror movie no one's ever heard
Okay.
of.
Oh, is it kind of like Springtime for Hitler? Then it tries so hard to be horror that it actually ends up being funny.
Sort of. Like, it's more so just like where there's so many mistakes, so many weird things and visions in it that the more and more you think about it, the more and more ridiculous it is. Like, there's this one guy there's one girl who's sneaking around this guy who's in a mansion, and he goes upstairs to find this person who is actually the killer guy who she was sneaking around, and he just in 5 seconds did the most convincing makeup and face change ever in like 5 seconds. And the movie just doesn't want you to think about that, and moves so fast that like you may not think about that at first.
Okay. So really bad editing, really bad mistakes, and not
yeah,
very
like-
well set up in story.
Like, another thing was, like, at one point, this character's friend goes missing, and you think and then her boyfriend goes missing, and you think at one point, and, like, they all go missing at the same place, and you think at one moment that they would then call the police, but no, she never even thinks of it as a possibility. Like, even in the trashiest of trash horror movies, there's normally an excuse as to why they don't call the police.
Or
And
leave.
they just don't even think that it's something the audience would be wondering, and just don't even address it. I'll send you a YMS. The YouTuber YMS did a review on Amusement
Yeah.
that breaks
Okay.
down why it's
So
very
basically,
stupid.
it sounds like it's even dumber than Black Christmas.
You mean the original or the remake?
The one that was made recently. Or was it Black Christmas? It was that feminist remake, and it was absolutely awful.
I'll send you.
I mean, come on.
YMS.
There, at least, yeah, they do have an excuse of why the police are unreliable. It's an incredibly stupid excuse, but at least there's an excuse there.
In Amusement, they just don't even give excuse. Just for some reason, the main character just doesn't even think to call the police and whatnot.
Is this before cell phones, or is that
No,
even bad?
Cell phones are used in the movie,
Okay.
but not for calling the police. I'll send you YMS's review on Amusement that breaks down pretty well why it's a shitty movie.
Or why it would just work better as a comedy if it was edited that way.
Yeah. I think you'll find it amusing, especially how bad it is.
I'm sure I will. I mean, a movie that's so bad that it's actually turns out to be good for the wrong reasons, I can enjoy that now and then. It's how I enjoyed The Producers. And
Yeah, and also the main character gives Jigsaw a run for his money in terms of how omniscient he is. Like, certain plans he has to work not only knowing things that he should not know, but like certain things would happen at certain times, even though it makes no sense that certain characters would make said decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So he pretty much knows the future, in other words.
basically.
And there's
Like-
no explanation for it.
No, he's not. He's a normal human. In canon, in the movie logic, he's just a normal guy. But like, if you break down his plans and whatnot, you realize that a lot of it relies on contrived things that no one would normally guess would happen because those decisions in those themselves were very stupid and random. You know.
Mm-hmm. Or is it one of those plans where it's like the entire thing fails if this exact decision is not made and the train is even 2 minutes late?
Sort of. Like, let me describe a part of the movie. Like, there's a part of the movie where you think it's a different guy that's a bad guy. Like, there, a couple of guys are in this convoy, okay? And, apparently this guy had a girl. The guy who's leading the convoy is in this truck, and he has a girl in the back of it that he's taken to rehab. And apparently she's just crazy and decides to just jump out of the car and land on one of the other car's window shields, but he, for some reason, just keeps driving. Maybe because, he didn't realize it or whatnot. But then it comes this thing of we need to hunt this guy down and find his stuff. And the other guy goes to find him, but for some reason the guy turns. There's this thing where this guy drives the car, he parks it, looks around, it's like, for some reason looks around, and suddenly the headlights of the truck goes on, and he starts to try to ram him down the road for some reason. It's like, this guy, this truck driver is innocent, by the way, but still apparently tries to run this other guy down for seemingly no reason. Like, I get he's supposed to be a red herring, but I guess he's but like, I guess it's also weird. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, isn't a red herring supposed to actually make some kind of sense at first?
Yeah, it's like, this guy, like, it turns out, like, the bad guy who orchestrated all this turns out to be, like, some other guy in the convoy. But it's like, the reason why it doesn't work is he somehow had to know ahead of time that the people he needed would end up in this convoy. Two, that this truck driver apparently would have a girl in there that was crazy enough to just jump out, and that he would be able to convince this other guy to leave long enough for him to kidnap 2 other girls. It's like his whole plan is based off a lot of contrived coincidences.
That no one could have predicted would happen.
Yeah, and then all it leaves you doing is, what would you have done if, like, if this didn't work, you know?
But is the reveal of the bad guy at least good? Is he threatening?
I mean, I guess he's...
Or is it like Dave the intern? Is he at least threatening, hopefully?
I mean, I guess he's kind of threatening, but he becomes much more lamer as the movie goes on. Like,
How?
I gotta watch YMS's video on it just to realize how bad this movie is.
So he's a lame villain, okay.
He starts out a little cool, but he gets more and more lame as the movie goes along.
No. So then defeating him isn't really all that satisfying.
But the description I give do a good job explaining why that scenario was very contrived and dumb.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, if you're an innocent good guy in all this, why did you turn on your headlights and try to run down this other guy over?
Yeah, why did that happen for no reason? Is that ever explained, by the way, why he did that? Hello?
Why he did what?
Why he tried to run this other guy down for no reason?
No, it's never explained.
So
at
it's
least
just a
explained-
mystery box, then?
Not even a mystery box, it's just something I guess the writers are hoping the moviegoers would forget about.
So they tried to GS ball it?
Yeah. Like, I'll give it some credit that at least at least tries to imply that he somehow, he tried to manipulate events a little bit with, like, having a radio that, it's hard to describe. There's like one thing that makes a little bit of sense, but everything else makes no sense. But after this match, I'm gonna send you a link to it.
Alright. That's fine now then. You can do that, and I can also think of, for the next video, I wonder if how to get better lighting.
Part series, so might take a bit, but it's well worth watching.
Okay. That way, if I've got to do that again at the end, I can at least, it can be shown better.
Just texted it to you. Hope you like it.
Okay, I'll get to that after the podcast. Thank you. Let's see.
Really funny when you think about how Jigsaw is does become an omniscient god as the series goes along.
Jigsaw, I guess the best defense I can give him is it's at the very least somewhat justified.
I guess because like
That
human
all the people he manipulates are people that he spent a lot of time with and psychologically analyzed. So okay, fine. There is some justification. It's not the best, but there is some.
great, but at least it's some. But it's a hell of a lot more justification than a character in amusement got.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing to say about Saw is the execution, no pun intended, wasn't always that good. But it definitely did its job.
At least the traps were pretty creative. Traps are usually pretty creative and certainly had a lot of blood and gore and whatnot. The audience was appealing to or towards.
And the main characters weren't always complete idiots. That was nice as well. In fact, that one I can't remember the name of, he was able to escape what was supposed to be an unescapable trap. By... can't remember. He kind of performed some surgery on his neck that opened up an extra airway when he couldn't breathe. Why can I not remember that?
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I read about it. Did you know? You heard about Jigsaw, right? And if that one is also, do you know why that one's also a little ridiculous?
No, why?
Well, the big plot twist in that movie is, that the trap / game you're seeing throughout most of the movie is implied to take place during the same time as some investigation. Except the plot twist is no, the game actually happened 10 years later when Jigsaw was still alive. But the silly part about it is that Jigsaw looks the oldest he's ever been, and also he has a bunch of flat screen TVs and whatnot that were not at all common before 2004. And also apparently it's at the farm of his family's wife, which realistically should have been investigated in one of the other Saw movies, but we're just supposed to think that,
Well, I'd wonder how on earth he was able to set all that up without being caught.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous as the theme of the very first Saw video game. It's like, how exactly were you able to set all this up without being caught?
I'm pretty hard on Saw, but like it is, at least it's entertaining in a way, you know, with its goofiness.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it got a bit silly as it went on, but even then, it was able to maintain a good amount of appeal and scare.
Yeah. At least the traps remains pretty cool. And like, I
Yeah.
have to admit,
And of course, we can make all the standard trap jokes we like.
Yeah. And also on top of that, they got really lucky that they cast Tobin Bell in the first one, because the more and more the series went on, the more and more it became clear that he was carrying it.
Right.
What?
Do you say something?
I said, like, they also got lucky casting Tobin Bell early on, because he kind of helped carry the series as it went along.
Yeah. They were also good to have the first Saw video game, and then the second one came along, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
Oh yeah, I remembered one other funny thing about Jigsaw. Is one of the people that are in the traps apparently are in it because she smothered her baby and blamed it all on her husband and whatnot. But they never. And the reason Jigsaw knows this is because he was her neighbor. Yeah, it never explains how they he was able to figure that out when the police never did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did he somehow hear the muffles of the baby scream and whatnot?
Mm. Wasn't his wife a doctor? Maybe that was why.
Maybe.
Again, why not? There have been plenty of horrible crimes like that. Though the fact it was a married woman that did it, that's a bit surprising. It's usually single mothers that are guilty of killing their babies.
And Jigsaw, there's a lot of, like, the entire cast is basically questionable how the heck he learned about this. Like, one girl, like, in the other films, at least understandable how he knew about them, and Jigsaw is, like, completely questionable. Like, one of them's a complete stranger who apparently robbed a person of their purse that happened to have medicine they desperately needed that caused them to die. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not someone related to Jigsaw or anything, it's just some random woman.
Yeah.
Maybe he really is omniscient and just knows everything.
It could be, or it could just be a mystery box, how he had such a very good intelligence network.
Maybe if everyone is secretly working for Jigsaw.
Maybe.
You know, when you think about it, they pulled that twist a lot. Oh, also this person's been working with Jigsaw the whole time, a lot throughout the Saw series.
But at a certain point they had to. They'd already killed their main villain.
Yeah. At a certain point, it kind of started to become ridiculous because it's like, oh, once again, we're like, now this person's also working for Jigsaw. They pulled that again in like the Jigsaw movie, the newest one, where it's like, oh yeah, there's another guy who was working with Jigsaw this whole time that we never knew or seen about until this movie, and apparently helped make the fucking chain trap. What was it called? The reverse bear trap and whatnot.
Yeah, that famous one.
Yeah. Apparently there was a coroner guy and whatnot who we never heard of and has never been relevant until this movie that was also helping out Jigsaw this entire time. It gets to a point where I'm like, okay guys, how many times are we gonna use this twist?
I guess they ran out of ideas after a while.
Tobin Bell's a really good actor, though.
It's better than some explanations I've heard for other movies where they don't even try to explain the weird things that happen.
Yeah, at least they did try.
In Rise of Skywalker, how on earth can these Star Destroyers possibly destroy entire planets? We're not going to answer that. Well, like, no, really, how on earth can these things gain enough power to destroy entire planets in one shot? How? And why does everyone else have that technology? We're not even going to answer it.
Yeah.
Why can't the Star Destroyers know which way is up in Exegol? Don't know. Why can't they have their shields up? Don't know, don't care. That's essentially how it works.
Apparently there's a new Saw movie coming out next year. It's supposed to come out this year, but the coronavirus delayed it.
Yeah. Coronavirus delays everything.
Apparently it was written by and also stars Chris Rock, so that should be interesting.
What I'm really looking forward is the new Sonic movie.
Yeah, just read apparently exclusively we kind of already suspected it, but now it's like 100% confirmed that they are working on a sequel.
Well, yeah, after how successful it was, and now they've introduced Tails, they have to make a sequel.
And apparently it's being done by the same writing directing team.
Yeah.
I'm guessing right now they're probably haven't even entered pre-production yet. Probably like super early in development, so don't expect it anytime in the immediate future, especially with the virus.
I'll love it as long as they explain why the hell Tails hasn't found Sonic in years, and it only showed up now.
Yeah. I'm gonna use the bathroom really quick. Be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back.
You haven't missed anything.
Good.
So we'll just talk of new movies. I'm trying to get some recommendations here. What do you think should it be in the next video I make?
Well, what's the next video you want to make?
Well, the next video is going to have to be getting over it again. Because that video hasn't been finished yet.
I don't know, I guess if you go really fast at one point, you can make a Sonic the Hedgehog joke. Like, gotta go fast or something. Play the Sonic theme song in the background as you do that, and maybe Photoshop a blue hedgehog head thing onto the player character.
Diogenes. Yeah. Oh, no, Diogenes.
Him.
Which is apparently how you say his name. Yeah, him and his Yosemite hammer. It's like they're doomed to have to climb it forever. And forced me to ask, how's he go to the toilet? And I probably don't want to know. And when is this game going to start?
Question.
Yeah, anyway. Because I'll spend more of the podcast trying to think about how exactly to approach the next one. I mean, it can't just be me playing the game. That's dull. It needs to be more than that.
Well, I said the Sonic the Hedgehog joke.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, hell, even the big Let's Play game YouTubers don't just play the game and record themselves. They do more. Okay, so we got Sonic the Hedgehog joke, if it's applicable. Okay. Let's see, what else? And if I'm too slow, no pun intended, I just edit all those parts out.
People.
The one thing I could do, I could give myself another challenge again on how not to swear. Wonder what I could do then.
Also, be sure to let me know what you think of YMS's amusement review.
I will. I probably note itself. If I failed that one, I mean, I could use better lighting or a darker shade so it would show up. And to answer the question at the end, yes, it does come off with hot water, soap, and a bit of scraping it off.
Definitely, there's some. Never mind.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, nothing. I was gonna reference a joke in YMS's amusement review, but then I realized you wouldn't get it because you haven't seen the joke yet.
Okay.
I don't know what to think.
Indeed. Well, there's planning future content and also planning more for this channel. The main focus of this one would always be SFM in the future.
Well, there's certainly been new source filmmaker projects since Half-Life Alyx came out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, a new detail was added to Half-Life Alyx recently. Apparently, you can now, in a lot of the bottles of beer and whatnot that you can see in the game, they now see liquid in it.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty neat detail.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got my list really worked out for me. So there'd be... For this podcast, it would be look into SFM far more how to animate. And possibly find voice actors on Fiverr to do the lines. And what else? As well as run my own channel and learn programming. And you come up with writing ideas.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, are there any writing prompts you have for me?
Maybe I'm trying to think.
Cringier the better. I can make anything good.
Maybe a version of events where Yugi tries to duel someone, but instead they just kick his ass.
So Yu-Gi-Oh fanfiction, okay.
You want to escape this and try to try
Yeah.
again? Okay.
Mm.
We'll leave that.
Okay, so basically Yu-Gi-Oh GX, but with more personal stakes then.
I'm more so thinking of like a comedy version where, like, you know how people are always like, why do they always duel? Why can't they, just kick each other's ass? So like, it'd be funny,
Because
like,
then you go back to Yu-Gi-Oh Season 0. And they want to avoid that. I mean, there's a reason that they talk about that as little as possible.
like that.
There were very few card games, and it was incredibly violent. I mean, Seto Kaiba goes from an asshole to being a flat-out psychopath in Season 0.
Well, like, isn't that the point? Didn't he like remove the darkness from him in episode 1 or some shit?
Yeah, in Season 0, they have the darkness removed from him then, and they really, really up the ante of how much of an ass he is.
So I mean, they removed the darkness from him twice.
They changed it for the anime. In the original Season 0, the darkness is removed from him at the end of that. Well,
Okay.
near the end of it, anyway. And he's left comatose as a result. And I can see why they chose not to air Season 0 for the US audience, because, oh god.
Well, if he's comatose, and how is he in season 1 then?
He recovers during Season 1.
And then he gets the darkness pulled out of him again, or...
No. Well, all of that was made mainly for the American version. The original Japanese version, which had Season 0, was originally canon, but they finally decided, we cannot go with this. This is too bad. I mean, in Season 0, he traps the entire cast in Death Tea, which is a theme park designed to kill all of the people who go into it, and I still don't know how on earth they were able to justify that one. And to get Yugi to go into it, he traps his grandfather in a simulation that's been proven to cause people to go mad from being in it.
It's interesting.
Yeah, Season 0, it's one of those things you've got to see to believe with how incredibly violent it is. So in Season 0, they actually do have the story of how Taya falls in love with Yugi, and it's even worse than the one in the original canon.
So...
So if you want to know how it is, in canon, it's she goes to a warehouse to practice dancing, and some thug catches her. You remember that one?
yeah.
In Season 0, she's working as a waitress for a part-time job. An escaped convict from death row basically takes her hostage and takes the whole place hostage with a gun. And Yugi's response is to challenge him to a game and set him on fire.
So, was season 0 not canon?
It depends on who you ask. The people in charge of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think would rather forget it existed. But of course, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge around, having fun with it, that's impossible.
Do you want to go one more game, then end for the night?
Yeah. But now think about it, a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga is a lot more violent than what you see in the show.
One day.
Yeah. In the manga, Bakura doesn't duel Pegasus with ancient Egyptian laser beams. As awkward as... No, he just rips his eye out and pretty much kills him. And he's not even subtle about it. You see him put a false eye with blood coming out of Pegasus's face. And Bakura saying, "Take this one with you to hell." And then he walks away licking the blood off the Millennium Eye. So yeah, I'd say there's a reason they really tried to 4Kids it during the English dub.
Wonder why 4Kids always remove the text from stuff in their dubbed shows.
Hmm.
Like, I understand Japanese text, but I don't understand English text. Why they decided to remove English text.
We may never know.
Interview someone who worked there to find out.
There's lots of awkward things 4Kids did.
I really understand.
I mean, they had to make it 4Kids somehow.
Kind of, I mean, like, I don't know. Like,
Again, if you ever want to, try to read the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga at some point, you'll understand, wow, these guys really had to work overtime to make this kid-friendly. It's pretty hardcore.
Well, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga is different from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, isn't it?
To an extent, it is.
Is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga better than the anime?
Well, that one, it's definitely a lot more adult. I mean, yeah, it's still grown men playing a children's card game, but they're a lot less comical about it. There's a lot more, we are playing this, and if I lose, somebody dies. Or worse.
I kind of feel bad for 4Kids that they've kind of become the poster child of how not to dub an anime, you know?
That's what happens when you make so many mistakes.
They make what mistakes?
When you make all the mistakes that 4Kids did, that's what happens. I mean, everyone mocks them and their invisible guns for a reason.
My favorite 4Kids edit is in One Piece, where, what in the original One Piece thing, a guy literally just, like, flat out killed a guy with a gun, but in their version, they had a guy say, when he wakes up, tell him it was a cap gun, implying that the guy was so scared for his life, he literally passed out from being scared. Well, not when he thought he was shot or something.
Yeah.
They're both funny and silly at the same time.
Just like One Piece, in a sense. Funny, silly, yet knows when to be serious.
I got fucking kicked again.
Again?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, one more?
I see you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
If we're in the middle of a match, then we'll finish that and do one more.
Yeah. Then afterwards I can get back to getting up Orange Hill off screen, hopefully. And I'll try thinking about using that music again when I finally do get up it. Well, I suppose one funny thing I did learn from doing that episode that I didn't think about before. Painting nails is actually incredibly difficult. So now I have more respect for it as a result. There's something. You still there?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. I was just thinking. Sorry.
You'll be amazed with the lessons you can learn for a YouTube video.
Forward to the...
Third one.
Oh yeah, we scored. Awesome. Good job.
Yeah. So more the goal, and also looking forward to the third one and what I'll do for the challenge then.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I want to keep incorporating that.
I'm also looking forward to seeing if Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a trash fire, but that's not for years and years and years.
I'm surprised that Bethesda's still promoting Fallout 76. I thought they just scrapped it by now.
Well, at least they're determined.
There's such a thing as being determined for a lost cause, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Fallout 76, that's the kind of game that needs to come out swinging. Fallout 76 just tripped before it even reached the door.
Why did that in particular need to come out swinging? Because
It's a big multiplayer game, that's why.
You know, rather them try and fail to fix it than to just give up on it and take the money they...
Well, normally I'm against giving up in cases like that where it's such a hopelessly lost cause that it's actually kind of sad they're trying to fix it. You just look, shut it down, say it was a mistake, we're sorry, and try again later. It's just what you gotta do sometimes.
At least they added NPCs. They added the bare minimum of role playing to a Fallout game known for role playing, so there's that. Yay.
Could they at least have had better dialogue to Fallout 4? Or even 76, I hope not.
Well, they added better dialogue. But from what I've seen, the dialogue in 76 seems better than Fallout 4. At least it's clear on what he's trying to say.
And the Minutemen aren't in it? If that's true, I'll be happy.
I don't think the Minutemen are in it.
Oh, thank God.
Could be wrong,
I
though.
hated those people.
In one Skyrim mod, every once in a while I'll watch Let's Plays on videos on Skyrim mods because I find them interesting. And one of them, there's one mod that's sort of inspired by like RPGs like Mass Effect and whatnot. And there's a character called, like, I can't remember exactly his name, but it's obviously an anagram for Preston Garvey. And he says a lot of similar things to Preston Garvey, like, no settlement needs our help and whatnot.
Yeah, but like, could someone tell these settlements not to settle in the middle of freaking nowhere in bandit territory? Like, could you not settle a little bit closer?
Exactly.
It's so bad there are people that play Fallout 4 now, and they just completely ignore the Minutemen. They go right to the other city.
I find it funny that, like, people, like, still hate on Fallout 4, but nowadays, compared to Fallout 76, people are like, man, maybe we were too hard to Fallout 4.
Well, it's always what you compare it to.
Yeah. But a Fallout 4 mediocre game looks great when you compare it to piles of shit like Fallout 76.
I mean, I used to think that Ghostbusters 2016 was one of the worst movies ever made. Then I saw Charlie's Angels. Or rather, then I took Charlie's Angels to the knee. I'm saying it's always what you compare it to that decides how bad it is. Ocean's 8... Okay, it had most of the problems that most feminist movies had. And that the villain was just really weak. And not even just weak, but just pretty much a caricature of a masculine man. But at least the plot structure was good. But it had the problem of just being another version of something else. That was already done so much better.
Sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, trying to make Ocean's 8, it was more like taking your car, spray painting it brown, and taking a shit in it, and then saying, "This is a new car!" I was like, no, it's not. It's your old car, it just looks like shit, and now it smells like it. Like, why do you do that? Why?
Alright, 4-4.
Well, that's rare. It's possible we could win this one.
Not impossible.
It's also possible that I will never again hear Going Down the Road Feeling Bad. Oof, that song.
I've heard of it before.
If you play Getting Over It, you'll hear it a lot. It plays when you fall down. I don't know why Bennett Foddy chose that song to play in an insulting manner when you fall. That's just what he chose. And even worse, it's catchy. Actually, that's probably why he chose it. And that reminds me, I'd also thought of another difference between the Yu-Gi-Oh manga and the show. As in the manga, they kill off Bandit Keith. There you go, there's a difference. What?
Okay. So what did you say?
When I said in the manga, they kill off Bandit Keith.
When?
Or rather, Pegasus murders him after his duel.
Okay, so he doesn't steal Yuki's necklace?
No. How Pegasus does it is he uses the Millennium Eye to have him shoot himself.
Screwed up. Anyway, looks like we won, so that's great, so I'm gonna head out now.
Okay, look forward to the next video I put out.
And definitely, don't forget to check out YMS's
I will.
news interview. You won't regret it.
At the moment we're done, in fact, I will.
Anyway, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.